Hello guys, welcome to a Train Parrot. Bitcoin continues to battle with resistance in the 4-hour. Every time we hit resistance, we get another rejection with a new lower low. Does this mean that we're getting very bearish? I will discuss this in this particular video, and I'll give you an update on my short. Of course, we are in profit again. Yesterday, I couldn't put out a video. There was an emergency situation. Apologies for that. So in today's video, it's gonna be pretty much like a catch up with everything that we need to know. Nothing is going to leak out of my radar. Thanks so much for all the 2,000 views on the Cardano video. Someone was saying you're putting out some clickbait titles on Cardano. Cardano is probably going down. You see, the video is bearish. ADA being an early topper means that it could top before Bitcoin does and not after, which is something really concerning. Go and watch it. And if you want to trade ADA, Bitcoin, or any other coin, 2bit could be the best answer to open an exchange. That's because it takes only 2 minutes to sign up, deposit, and start trading with leverage, any altcoin or Bitcoin anywhere in the world. And as soon as you sign up, they give you $50 to trade for free. Now, if you deposit your own cash, you can get up to 30,000 USDT in trading bonuses. Let's have a look at the news. According to ChatGPT, this is what matters the most, so let's keep an eye. Spot BTC ETFs draws 2.2 billion this week. Alts pull back. Fresh spot demand into BTC ETFs is a direct price tailwind and signals ongoing institutional buying despite profit-taking in alts. I'm not fully sure ChatGPT with that conclusion, but we'll talk more about that later. Hopefully, if I manage to have time to make an altcoin video in a separate general market, I will cover all the different perspectives so we get the full crypto perspective after having watched the 3 videos. Bitcoin dips towards 121K, but October sentiment is still intact. A leverage reset pullback with constructive sentiment often reduces downside liquidation risk and can set up rebounds. I have that idea that October can offer a decent pullback by the deep pullback. That is the past performance. But of course, if we spot anything that smells burnt, like that dip is going to be too big of a dip, we're probably going to find it first in this channel, which is data driven. No hype and a minimum of entertainment and silliness. That's acceptable, but we need to make sure that 99% of the takeaway of this channel is pure, high quality, time sensitive alpha for you guys. IBIT scale implies sustained structural spot demand for BTC. Big AUM can anchor flows on dips. All of them are bullish, just that 6 out of 10 that is slightly bullish. And Glassnode today is saying that BTC futures open interest remains elevated as both longs and shorts are being whipsawed by sharp price swings. The market is undergoing a leverage reset with volatility flushing out excess positioning on both sides. And I want to pay a visit to the aggregated open interest. That is incredible, but it has stopped right there at the golden pocket on the aggregated open interest. That's the point we were speculating without knowing anything, and we still don't know if it's going to stop there. But stopping there and getting an ugly rejection back into 37 billion will tell me that that's it for now. Okay, that could be a local top. And then we need to assess if we are going to get another rally after that or just a dead cat bounce. But if we cross that golden pocket, that could confirm that all the people that are expecting a blow off top kind of behavior, exponential, impulsive wave next, maybe they are right. But for that, we need to go beyond $45 billion in aggregated open interest. Well, yeah, at that point, probably Bitcoin hits 130K. And if it holds on a weekly basis, we get, double confirmation that they are right. So far, we got just an initial, very early confirmation that that is not yet the case. Let the price, let the aggregated open interest tell you who's right. And today is Friday, so we need to keep an eye. Number one, we typically get some sort of rally on Fridays, most of Fridays, if I remember right. So there could be some relief rally. And we got tons of shorts that enter. When we get into the order book, I will show you how significant is the amount of shorts that recently entered. And that could bring in a wave up to liquidate them. If that happens before Friday close and then we collapse before CME closes, that won't allow necessarily to put a CME gap to the downside if we just stay in the median. We need to remain vigilant across the weekend to see what sort of CME gap we feel we produce, to see on Monday how we're gonna feel it, to the upside or to the downside. And I have updated the Bitcoin status across the three lower timeframes, 4 hour and daily and weekly. We have some changes. We have the RSI bullish potential breakout test. We are in the middle of a test, yes, of a potential breakout to the upside on the 4 hour. Friday could help with that. Excessive shorts, yeah, that could help too. But we have some weakness at the moment. So we need to kind of size the short and the bullish strength at the moment to see which one has more likelihood. Do I need to accurately forecast and give you a percentage or really know which side is gonna be? Am I the hero trading parrot that is aiming to do that? No. To be honest, I have a bias and I'm already in a short and I'm gonna hold on to my short despite what I find on these things. But I like to know what's going on in the market still in case I need to change my own bias. We got the second CPR resistance lost. And on the daily, breakout retest in progress. The weekly, after the breakout, yes, we did have a breakout on the weekly last Sunday. And during this week, we have done nothing else by retesting that breakout. Coming back to the scene of the crime and seeing if we're going to hold. Next, we're going to look into the charts to understand graphically what we mean by all of these statements. The Bitcoin status sheet is always shared in my Patreon community, so everybody can read it as I'm writing. And all of these charts, including this one that is about to break out, you can see it from Telegram straight away. As you can see from my Telegram, people already see that this is about to break out. They don't need to wait for my video, and that the daily is currently retesting. That's pretty obvious already. But before we go into the charts, Martin say that spike in buy pressure on Bybit. That could be another sign that maybe on a Friday we're gonna get some move up. Bitcoin's taker buy sell ratio just surged to 12.68, signaling big long positions are being opened. If you quantify this, it's pretty decent relative to the beginning of October. We haven't seen such a thing. And CryptoQuant is saying that the Bitcoin price dip, who were the main sellers on Binance. Also, understanding who sold tells you what sort of dip we are currently experiencing. The least experienced sellers we can identify in the ratio of sellers. The dumber the money dumping into the market, the more likely we get a push back up. Of course, everything is relative. There's always exceptions to any rule. Large investors did not dominate the sell-off, okay? That's important. We don't want that. Pressure came from smaller wallet cohorts. Shrimps, 600 Bitcoin, crabs, 2.2K, fish, 3.8K, sharks, 700 Bitcoin. And as you go larger into the allocation of the wallets that were selling, they were selling less and less. And this is a little bit of opium for us, for people that are really into the holding Bitcoin forever thing. Bitcoin adoption has reached 4.7% globally, matching the internet's adoption level in 1999. And I really like when I say I'm not gonna hold Bitcoin, and then someone writes in the comment that you don't deserve to talk about Bitcoin. My God, I want to see them commenting like that in the middle of the bear market, where they go really suspiciously quiet for a main, big, huge reason: the bleeding in their pockets. The Bitcoin OG has increased his short position on BTC and also increased the leverage from 6x to 8x. So many people are monitoring large traders at the moment, and it calls my attention, of course, seeing what they're doing, since everything is transparent, particularly when you go for hyper liquid exchanges, where you can see the leverage in everything, the profit taking, adding, reducing. And in the past 2 days, I've seen multiple posts of different OG whales entering into shorts. And definitely that's increasing that open interest and the amount of shorts that we're seeing in the market. That could be helping for the move up. The question is, are they gonna hold on to the short with conviction, or really do they actually know something and they're just waiting for things to dump big? For long-term holders to sell, they must first transfer their holdings to exchanges, making this leading indicator of potential profit taking. And this is coming from Glassnode data and is showing some transfers to exchanges halfway through, I will say, before getting into 126K. Not as much as in these areas of distribution, but it's a big spike that you probably want to know. This is long-term holders. It's not always necessarily large holders, okay? It's two different things. BlackRock's IBIT Bitcoin ETF has surpassed 800 Bitcoin in on-chain holdings, now totaling 801, almost 802 BTC. That's a lot more than the rest. Definitely they are taking the lead. I do not take, like most of the people, oh, BlackRock is bullish on Bitcoin. They're bullish on the fees they're charging to you and to institutions and retail. After all, they have made more money with this new Bitcoin ETF than with anything else. And I'm sure that if Bitcoin goes to zero, BlackRock doesn't give a crap. What they're gonna end up retaining is those fees. Worst case scenario, Ali is saying Bitcoin BTC gets rejected at 124K and dives to 96, then to 70K. And this is one of the most bearish tweets I've seen in a long time. Most of the people, if you remember from my earlier videos this week, were talking about going to 121 to 122. A few exceptions mentioned my level of 118, and I didn't see anyone talking about this one. If you did see someone being really bearish, feel free to write down a comment down below so I can find it, but I didn't see myself. And of course, my community in Patreon, those are the spoiled ones. Any tier gives you access to my open trades with all the detail and up-to-date information straight into your email. But they also all get, any tier, access to ask me questions. Let's see what are the questions for today. What is your percentage of the top being already in? I try to answer these questions. I don't have the full answer. I am more focused on what invalidates my preference. My preference is that we are already in descending bearish divergences. So we either get here rejected at 128, we dump from there, we already went into 126, so we are 50% already my expectation, and then we dump into, let's say, 110 or 100 or even 96. And then from that position of weakness, in November, we do something that, mind-blowing, and we go for 140, 150. That is just my humble opinion. I have no clue if that's going to happen. I lean more towards that sort of nature of scenario. Now, if we do continue pushing into the highs and we go into the big liquidity straight away in here, and we close on a weekly basis above 130 and 128 for the daily and weekly, then I'm willing to accept that we could break the past performance trend from the cycles, which is not to break out around this area of resistance on the weekly, on the RSI. If we do that, fair enough. That's another model that broke. But before it breaks, as I said, my preference is move down and maybe another push in here. That could already bring us another all-time high without necessarily breaking our pattern, which hasn't been broken yet. Next question is Sura. Hello, both BTC and Ethereum look weak to me. Other alts are holding strong. I'm going to cover that in terms of Ethereum support levels and resistance in my altcoin video if I manage to do that today. The 4-hour RSI seems to be failing yet. Next, we go into the 4-hour. Hello, how likely is BTC doing retest of previous descending parallel channel on 4-hour? Well, I think many people want to know what's going on in the 4-hour. Myself as well, I had a little look before starting to shoot. Going into the weekend, is the longer term or shorter term liquidity acting as a stronger magnet for the price? That's a fair question, Eddie, because we have liquidity now sitting below us. We have some crumbles, right? 118, that level I like. Then the 110, definitely on the lower end, right underneath the price. If we zoom out, all you can see is 107. Everything that we were seeing in 1-2 disappears because of the normalization of the chart. If I put outside the 107, the levels reappear. You see, that's how small they are. You can also see it in the histogram, that level there versus this level right there. That's 1/5 of the other one probably. And on the upper end, the short-term liquidity is still less than 107, big. Let's put 107 out of the chart, and then they reappear as red. Again, another effect of the normalization. And on the longer term, we have this one at 128 and the 141. In a second level in the ranking of size of the top end, we have 135 too. So the priority for market maker is usually to observe the sentiment, the current trend, and take whatever doesn't need to really be arm wrestling with that. At the moment, there is a little bit of weakness coming from general markets. And well, for them, the path of less resistance is just to join that trend and to take these crumbles that are here. But if there's anything that shifts quickly in general markets, that could immediately make them take a big position in the opposite side and then resume liquidating to the upside. Okay, let's go into the 4-hour before we get the breakout that was anticipating to happen when the price was at 121. We can see it's already pushing against this resistance. To be, fair, is almost at resistance right there at the 47.98. So that is what price? Let's have a look. We also have the 71.84 that comes from all the peaks. And then we have the global resistance on the 4-hour, that line that we have touched since end of 2024. And we just recently hit the 85 as we were expecting to happen in the best case scenario for the momentum. After that, we started building a channel to the downside. We talk about that since pretty much 3rd of October. Let's prepare, let's embrace a channel to the downside. My channel was slightly wrong initially because I was putting it like this. But after this breakdown, I had to adapt to what the momentum says. And the momentum says that we started accelerating from the 7th of October to the downside. But we have to also admit that this is a parallel channel that is being constraining here. And RSI is getting really itchy now to start escaping to the upside from 48. We are on a Friday. Fridays can happen that we have some sort of push to the upside. And with all this elevated amount of shorts and other things that we're going to cover next, that scenario is in play. I am in a short, so how am I playing out with this? When I started recording, I was 3% in profit. Now I'm 2% in profit, less because it's pushing up and it's building some micro double bottom in here and a larger one that spreads up until a neckline of 56. If that one gets completed, we get a chance to rally into 69.36 or break out again and go into 84. So this is slightly lower, 36. So let's see targets. We are immediately, as you can see, hitting that resistance. We are kissing it as I'm recording. And the next level is 127 of resistance. That's another all-time high. And if we go back into the 85 or more, we get into 141. Now, support, before I forget, is currently at 111,650. So if this turns into a fake out, that could fall decently fast. Of course, we have some levels in between. There is a vacuum here, so a failure of the point of control, which is also another resistance at 121.6. A failure there could bring the price all the way through this vacuum into the next resistance of 114. At 114, we have a large gap. Thanks to this accelerated price action that we saw in here, they are fair value gaps, and those could be attracting the price. Not much structure in between 119 and 114. That's a 5K chunk, very slippery if we ever go there. And the daily is coming back very close now into levels of support. 54.90 on the daily is our support, 54.9. And we already test that. That's 119.773. If we come back, it's waiting for us right there at 119.872. If we resume this retest on the daily, if we can convince the 4 hour to come to the rescue on Friday and close very high, that could lead into another expansive wave, potentially into 84 on the daily RSI. That can push the price back again into 150. That's the range for the daily. But if we fail in here, we could come back into the support. I'm going to have to move the green line and find this new support in here. That is 37.63. 37.63 RSI. So on the daily, we already talked about this 119, and then the next support is 110.3. So if the 4 hour fakes out in a breakout, then we could be going into 110, 114. The CPR has turned into resistance. I covered that in the Bitcoin status already. And let's see the healthiness of the week. What have we done this week? Well, after previous week, which was the amazing week of the breakout, we did what we are supposed to do, right? Come back into this support of 119.5 that was previously so many times resistance, so many times we couldn't cross that it was almost mandatory to come in here to establish some structure on the weekly. What we want to prevent over the weekend is that the candle close, the body of this candle, doesn't pierce 119.5 on a closing basis. If it comes back in here and we close the week at 117, that means that we are slightly re-entering the previous range. Actually re-entering fully, not slightly. And if we re-enter in here, this was a liquidity hand, and that could be a very bearish signal. Holding 119.5, okay, fair enough. A little bit of a painful retest, fine, but not re-entering previous range. Re-entering, well, we're putting ourselves a date with the bull market support band, which is most likely at that point not gonna defend us for a third time. It already did 1 and 2, and if we come back from losing a breakout, then it's an additional weakness, and then we need to be talking about the 50 weekly moving average, which is currently at 101, but the time that it takes really for price to collapse here usually is a bit more than a single candle, so I will expect this in that case to do something like that, completely opposite than what the seasonality says. So I'm just putting the patch before the wound, which is a Chilean say, or at least I heard it only in Chile, which means to prepare yourself for the worst, but not necessarily that you are expecting the worst or the worst is completely guaranteed, right? Obviously not. After all, on the weekly, we have a bullish cross. We have an incoming potentially weekly close that could be settled not this Sunday, but the next one, because we still don't have it unless the price starts rallying before Sunday. Leverage squeeze got the signal in yellow in there, but we are still in the median. No news on that. SOPR had 2 areas of distribution or positions closing. That those 2 are 1st of October, that spike there, and the 7th of October on Tuesday, and this one was on Wednesday. They coincide with some of the most impulsive time during the push into the new all-time high. On Ethereum, we are seeing a little bit of excessive closing prices in a loss. Not as much as we saw in the 22nd of September, but definitely bringing the price back into the median of the range and putting a lot of people stress, not just the Ethereum holders, but altcoin holders. That's for another video though. In terms of value bands, people selling the 1K to 10K wallets and the 10K wallets and more have had a spike during this pump into 126. We need to track that, but definitely, as we say before, not as much as we had in July of 2025 and July in 2024. Those were big spikes of large holders selling. In this case, it's kind of the highest level before we go really crazy in distribution. the spend output age bands, which refers to long-term holders in this case, because I have it set to 5-year to 10-year. We got in here some deposits going on at the moment. And I wanted to show you the open interest. Remember talking about searching, looking for shorts in an area where we are slightly above the blue? Well, you get what I mean, right? Even if you enter at 126 and you just close it at 123 because you're too conservative, you already caught a good, decent position. If this would have held above the blue, above the 11 for a little bit longer, well, then you have to average up into the next one. And then you get one position around here, one in here, and then somehow you need to look for an exit. Tough one, that one, I agree. Our short-term holder realized price now is pushing into almost 112. That's the average of the short-term holders. It acts as a magnet if they decide to distribute. And when do they distribute? If we enter in the fear. Somehow, we are still in the grid. Today we are at 64. We got still inflows on Bitcoin, but not on all the ETFs. Some of them have been distributing, not the case for BlackRock, and still at all-time highs, every day a new high. Remember, my takeaway on this is when we have very, very large numbers of inflows on ETFs, that tends to happen around a local top. Not precisely that day, but prior and a little bit after, surrounding the period of the local top. Most of the time, not always. Cerberus still on the journey back down into my warning buy, still not in warning buy area. We still have in the 3 months the 107, and now looking at the past 30 days, we have a combination in here. We have probably open interest across all the range. Highest levels, many of them, 117, 118, and on the upper end, 123.6 and 126K. Liquidations, nothing dramatic really. Everything very shallow. As you can see, nothing comes even close to the 22nd of September. Still waiting for a big red to the downside. That means shorts having their D-day. Purple whales are now taking the lead to the upside. This is another alpha that is telling us that they are onto something. Remember that purple whales initiate something, and they have already started this from the 5th of October. 5 days ago, they've been increasing. Now they are at a peak. So if you join them, be aware that they started from the 5th. That's interesting because that starts from before the all-time high, and they push up and up and up, and they are accelerating into a position as it approaches that support. But most likely, if they started from the 5th and this has been coming down, I don't know, but it feels like their average is currently underwater. So they must have some sort of confidence to be doing such a thing. I'm just saying, right? Whereas brown whales have slowed down, and all the other sizes of positions in USDT, M, on Binance are pushing down. So they are not being part of this current move up. In terms of liquidity, we have 65 million at 130, 48 million at 126. Let's have a look at that on Market Monkey Terminal. And I'm going to start with this open interest increase in here. So there was a flash of open interest once we got in here. That's definitely thanks to the liquidations that we produce right there. Okay, so we clear out all the red, and all that red finally going away means that open interest decreases, shorts decrease, longs decrease, they took profits, and now we have this. Look at this spike in shorts from minus 367 to 188K. That's a lot of new shorts very quickly in all of this range on the 4 hour. You can see that it goes into as many shorts as in this area. Okay, when you get too many shorts, there is a risk of a short squeeze, and that can push the price slightly higher to take them out, like in this area in here where the shorts are declining. I think these shorts needs to be moved out of the way. I am a short, but I'm not risking liquidation even if I go into 150K so they can do whatever they want. But most of the people are so degen that now if we start a move possibly into 124 or 25, that's the end of this mega plan from the shorts. In my opinion, the shape of this move in here is very similar to this one. So you got something that resembles a head and shoulder. That is what looks bearish. It's the typical pattern, kind of Bart Simpson if you want, but mostly the change of structure, right? So up until here, you have higher highs and higher lows. From here, you start completely shifting that. It's building, though, some sort of falling wedge, which I think we can clearly see in the 4 hour. Thanks to this parallel channel and this price action on the 4 hour, this looks like a falling wedge, and that's bullish, okay? So I don't blame people now taking a long and wanting to go for maybe 69 or maybe try to aim for a new all-time high. After all, this previous all-time high and this one in here too were put on Sunday and on Monday. So I guess some people might have the expectation that this weekend we resume with that thing. Well, whatever we do, if we go to high again and we put some CME gaps on the top, below the price, that means that then we need to take care of that liquidity together with the CME gaps that we still retain at around 110K right here, right? Looking at the order book, we again have a very shiny area in yellow in here. 4 blocks in a row, all deviations, 10, 1, 2, 5, have the percentiles of support holding the price very aggressively. The last time we had that was around here, which ended up dumping, so they couldn't win the arm wrestling by holding. Remember, I was showing this in the video on the 7th of October, saying we have so much support, the support shift up and is holding the price. I'm in a short, I'm gonna hold, I don't care. That's not sufficient. It's always good to be aware of that, but you see how it ended up. I ended up winning and they ended up all together losing. The shininess appear as well around here with big areas, and that pushed the price up. So that's not sufficient. You see one pushes up, the other one down. But we still monitor ratios and order depth because the insights are still there. Across the board, everything in green with the exception of 5 to 10%. Liquidations on both ends at the moment. Some spikes in the all-time high in here. And this bearish formation in here puts pretty much all of this up until 110, 112 in the range of that head and shoulder. Yeah. Longs are coming back. That's another alpha towards the idea of a rally on Friday. You can see that from 35, today we peak at 48. So 13% more of the longs coming back above the blue line where we are looking for a local top, which we found, right? It play out again. We found a local top in this area. Now this, if it continues to go up, it could resume the upside. We have to see. In terms of delta, another alpha supporting a move up, 421. And when I say a move up, am I saying, 200K non-stop? If you're new to the channel, you're probably thinking something like that. And that is not your fault. That's the fault of YouTube with so many crappy channels. I'm sorry, I had to say it today as well. I couldn't make a video yesterday, so I had to say it today. 421K, putting the shorts now at risk myself. We have the open interest still sitting at 117.7. That is absolutely within the range of what we are currently building. It could still hit that level. We got some bullish signals coming in as well. This one trigger at 121 is coming from the anchor CVD. I explained like 3 times this week that subscribe to the channel because I tend to repeat the explanations, but not every day because otherwise people wouldn't watch the full video, the usuals. Fair value gaps, look at that. Where are the fair value gaps gone? Well, when we were at all-time high, this was pretty much all fair value gaps to the downside. But since then, we've been progressing here. We put a fat one there to 123. That was very likely to get taken because it's overlapping daily and 4 hour at the same time. And we took it immediately and we put another one in the same place and we are just ranging. This is so cool. Let me know in the comments if you also love price action. It's just so cool how things happen. Anyways, we have the next one at 118. No fair value gaps to the upside. This area in here of the flag is very balanced. Every gap has been taken already. So that makes this 118 slightly more interesting. So wait a minute, you're saying that it's interesting to go to the downside and to the upside. So what is really your job? Why are you here making videos in YouTube? Again, if you're new to the channel, I am not here to try. I don't even try to spot what's going to happen next. I just look for probabilities and use those probabilities carefully to maintain a 100% win rate. That is my ultimate goal. It is not to impress you that I was right again the day after, even though I tend to sound, and I admit it, sometimes like that. That is just pure fun. I'm being silly, but really I'm not here to forecast anything. I'm here to grow my pocket. And I hope you are as well. If you are, stay here for the gains. This gap in here is very interesting until 114.8, very fat, the largest we've seen in a long time. So I wonder if we can take that soon. And for that, I'm gonna keep my short open. Very likely that if we start going towards that direction, I'm gonna put again a break even. So far, I don't have a break even in my short. Let's do the summary and let's wrap up. So we are in a channel on the 4 hour to the downside that has some bullishness to it, particularly this falling wedge on the 4 hour that we are trading in a range, but we are on the lower end at the moment of the point of control. That means that if we want to flip bullish Friday and for the weekend possibly get an all-time high, what we need to do is to break beyond 121,800, exit this wedge, break out on the momentum, and we start aiming for an RSI of 69 on the 4 hour. That is priced as 127.642, which is a moving target. By the hour, it changes. We do have a decent chance to go there. Shorts are exposed. So many have opened in the past 24 hours. That makes it really tasty and easy for market maker to go there. It could form some sort of double bottom in here with a bullish divergence. If we get into 123, we get a neckline and we can go straight into 127. Doable? Yeah, it's absolutely doable. So why on earth are you holding a short? Because if it fails over the weekend, or if we go into 127, since my new average is 123, anywhere above that level is gonna definitely catch my eye for adding into my short. Long. Why are you not in a long? Well, I'm still looking for the opportunity to get into 118 at the cost of potentially missing this move up. Are you a degen? Yeah, go for it. Go for the long. A little bit too late, in my opinion. You should have done it right underneath support. My support was 120. It was sitting there. And if you scroll back in time in my Telegram channel, you're gonna find some log, if you want, of those charts, so you can revisit as well. Weekly, we need to hold by Sunday the support of 119.3 at the moment. Closing basis on Sunday below that. My doubts that the bull market support band is going to hold, in which case we need to expand our range into 101K in case of a dump. Should we enter on a long? I don't know. Can you stomach 17% down? Do you have a plan for that? If we close Sunday suddenly below 119, your call. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.